adventure, intrigue, lost cities, ancient mysteries, and more on this week's episode of East 10 Investigates. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the East 10 Outpost. I'm Cody, and I'm going to be your guide into this week's investigation into two of history's most iconic explorers, and into the two iconic heroes they inspired, and in turn, who have inspired so many of us. I'm talking, of course, about Percy Fawcett, Mitchell Hedges, Harry Steele, and Indiana Jones. So, without further ado, pop some popcorn, dust off your fedora, and sit back and relax as we do a character analysis of these four men and what made them so great in idols and the icons they inspired. We'll begin our character analysis today by taking a look at Percy Fawcett. Born in 1867, Percy always had a thirst for adventure. His dad was an accomplished military man, and his older brother was an accomplished mountain climber and adventurer. So Percy longed for the day that he could throw his hat into the mix and go on adventures of his own. That day would come in 1886 when he would join the military and get to set off on his own for the first time into the world, and it would start his undying quest for adventure and curiosity. Percy had a deep interest in esoteric teachings and joined the Royal Geographical Society in 1906, where he would really kickstart his true calling. He would begin to hear whispers of a city of white Indians that he referred to as Zed, or more simply, the city of Z, that was somewhere deep in the Amazon jungle. While most people believed this was nothing more than a myth, he followed old writings from conquistadors who had made their way deep into the Amazon and reported amongst all the tribes that they found a rare tribe of white Indians with an incredibly advanced city hidden deep in the jungle. And he was mystified by this city, believing it to be one of the hidden cities of esoteric teachings where great masters of knowledge hid their knowledge, perhaps even after the sinking of Atlantis. So Percy Fawcett traveled deep into the Amazon on a number of explorations in search of this lost city of Z. On April 20th, 1925, Percy Fawcett, along with his son, Jack Fawcett, and Jack's friend Rimmel, would set off deep into the Amazon on Percy's final mission. They would write a letter a month later, telling his wife Nina she needn't have any fear of his failure. However, that would be his final correspondence, and what became of Percy Fawcett may never truly be known. It's reported that he was possibly killed by tribals, or maybe succumbed to disease, as Jack and Rimmel were reportedly seen very sick. So what exactly happened to Percy? We may never know unless we find his bones, but it is very curious to wonder about. His characteristics, though, live on long beyond him, and he's remembered as being a cunning man, level-headed, quick on his feet, and a man's man, truly indomitable in the face of danger. And those are qualities that no doubt any man can admire. So now let's take a look at another great explorer of his time. Now we'll take a look at Mitchell Hedges, who was known as a good time Charlie, a man's man, and an all-around badass. But what exactly made Mitchell Hedges the myth and legend that he became? Because he is arguably far more interesting than anything he ever found. He was born in 1882, not to a military or adventuring father, but rather to a man in the financial industry. So, much to the chagrin of his father, he eventually would leave the family business and set out on his own, following his heart and the call of the wild. In 1922, his life of extraordinary adventure would begin to take shape, and from big game hunting to big game fishing, he did it all. He loved to tell wild stories of escaping savages in the jungle. He had an aura about him that truly positioned him as one of the greatest of the time, but his biggest achievement, and certainly his most controversial, would come in 1924, when he would discover, alongside his daughter, Anna Mitchell Hedges, the famous crystal skull. This skull is the center of much controversy, and we will go into it in another video. But for this video, we'll continue to look at Mitchell and his character. He was known as an indomitable man, a true mountain of a man when it came to spirit and unstoppability. He continued his exploits well into his 50s, just like Percy Fawcett, and nothing would get in his way of a good time. He was also known, though, as a gentleman, truly one of the last gentleman explorers of the great age of exploration. So, what did he inspire? Well, the first of those icons we'll take a look at now. The legends of these men, and the legends that they inspired, no doubt captivated audiences. People were blown away and curious and hungry to hear more about these enigmatic super civilizations hiding deep in the great green forest of the Amazon. So they were hungry for the genre, and where there's a thirst for it, there is always an answer. And so Hollywood created Secret of the Incas, a 1954 film starring Charlton Heston and his portrayal of a character, Harry Steele. Harry was a hard-nosed, strong-jawed, brave and charming ladies' man who wasn't afraid to take or throw a punch. But arguably, the greatest thing about the character wasn't even Heston's performance, but rather the iconic outfit that he wore. That being a floppy brown fedora, a brown leather bomber jacket, military khakis, and leather jump boots. But it isn't Heston people remember wearing the outfit. It's another iconic actor. In 1981, the world would be introduced to the greatest amalgamation of these characters yet, Indiana Jones. Portrayed by Harrison Ford, donning the iconic fedora and bullwhip, he would go on to inspire millions of young people to think that history is actually pretty cool. Millions of people would go on to watch Indiana Jones and relate to this character, but what is it that was so relatable to make him as iconic as he is? Well, he really exemplified the everyman, and while he embodied a lot of the characteristics we've talked about from the people above, he was incredibly relatable in that he wasn't very powerful, he didn't always win the day, and he bled plenty of times. He was fallible, but more than anything, he was willing to learn, and he was willing to have his mind changed and blown. He was open to the incredible, no matter how skeptical he tried to be, and that's something I think we can definitely all take away from. We should be willing to have our mind blown, because the world is incredible. No matter what mundane things we might get caught in on the day-to-day, there is truly an amazing and fascinating world surrounding us, and if we never stop being hungry and curious and thirsty for that adventure, then we can discover some amazing things ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me here in the Outpost for this quick character analysis of two of the greatest explorers of all time, the two characters they inspired, who have no doubt inspired so many of us. Hopefully you'll be able to take something away from this video, in that we should always stay curious. The world is a fascinating and incredible place, and all four of these men embody that spirit of adventure and the undying quest for knowledge. Remember that just beyond the veil of the normal lies the paranormal, and it's a very strange and fascinating world out there. So I'll see you next East 10 Tuesday for another episode of East 10 Investigates.